Hi, I'm Jordan Cage and this is Creative TV. Today we're going to do a full body retouch. Let's get to it. Alright, we have our model from Pretty Kitty here. We're going to get started. First thing you want to always do is duplicate your layer. Alright, we're going to go ahead and start highlighting the areas that we know we want to fix. Very quickly go over that. Use a bright color so you guys can see it. Alright, you want to get rid of any waviness in the arms or legs. Start here with the butt. Just a little bit here on the thigh. Back of the leg and thigh here. Front of the leg and thigh here. As far as the waist, we're going to pull this in just a bit. Okay. Just to tighten her up. She already has a great waistline, but we're just going to go in a little bit with that. As far as skin retouching, we're going to make sure we get rid of any problem areas as far as pimples in the cheeks and forehead. Then we're going to even all the skin tone. As far as the legs, we're going to remove some of the heavy stretch marks here. These lighter ones, we're going to adjust them a bit, but we're really just going to do some skin smoothing that will, get rid of that pretty much. Going to make sure we take care of the razor bump area. Get rid of little blemishes like this on the leg. There's some dark lines here on the leg. I'm going to show you guys how to remove some stuff around through frequency separation to go ahead and alleviate that as well. Then I'm going to show you guys how to clean up the floor. So little holes like that here. Learned a long time ago you don't want to go replacing your seamless paper after every photo shoot. So you're going to end up with some scuff marks and some scratches. Alright. After you've gone on and done a thorough job of going over your image to make sure that you've determined everything that you're going to want to work on, you can go ahead and hide that and get started. One of the first things I do is I start with the face. You're going to want to get rid of all the blemishes. Okay, so all of these little bumps in here, you're going to want to go ahead and remove those. So you can start on this layer. Personally, I'm using a pressure sensitive tablet, so it makes things a little quicker here. Make sure you're set to proximity match. What that does is brings the area around into the area that you're coloring. So it's using the area around the area you're covering to mask whatever it is you're trying to get rid of. Sometimes you got to zoom in a little closer. And remember, this is all based on how detailed you guys want to get. You can get as thorough as you want. You can get rid of each and every blemish. In my opinion, we are doing a great job at making our models more beautiful than they were when they walked in our studio, but we also don't want them to look fake. We want some realistic quality still there, which is why we just get rid of the big noticeable bumps. Sometimes you can do that and it works like that. Sometimes when you cross lines, you get another issue like that. And see here where you have your hot spot in the center of your forehead, sometimes that focus of light can cause a little bit more trouble than you'd like. But you just work through it. And things look as easy as possible. Not going too crazy. Getting rid of each and every blemish isn't going to happen. You want to get to a nice natural state. This hair right here, just go ahead and do what you gotta do to get rid of it. Play with it a little bit if you're going through different layers of colors. Go ahead and get rid of that one. Okay, forehead's almost good. A couple more things. Little shine spots. Alright. You'll find that some of your models use what's called edge control. Problem is with lighting, you can get a bit of a glare. So we can just try to get rid of a bit of that, just to make it a little more subtle. See? So it doesn't take the shine out of her hair, but gets rid of the few hot spots that are up there. And then you got this black area here, a little discoloration. We're using the Spa Healing brush. Sometimes you just need to back out, see what you've done. Okay, see the difference. So, there's a line in her forehead. She smiles with her whole face, so it causes lines. We can get rid of those very easily with our patch tool. I do it by sections. Grab a little bit of it, move along. Grab a little bit of it, move along. Okay? Alright, we're just going to get rid of this line across our head. Patch tool. Grab a little bit and move along. Grab a little bit and move along. And then the only problem with the patch tool, sometimes you'll run into what's like a duplicated texture, like right here. I just take it and move it along. See what I mean? Makes it look more natural. Got a few little blemishes and bumps right here on her nose. Kind of thing. Into this area here. Just want it to look a little smoother. Now with a model like this who has so much color pop in her eyes, I'm going to do her eyes in one of the final steps so that I can have a little bit more control Because sometimes, you know, if you do the eyes at the wrong time, it can be a bit destructive to the process. So I wait to the end to do my eyes on certain subjects. This is one. Okay. You just want to do a good job of clearing some of that out. As far as coloration and stuff like that, we'll handle that during frequency separation. Right now we're just getting rid of some of the noticeable blemishes. Okay. This here. Sometimes you gotta play with it a little bit to get it to work. Alright. Moving back out a little bit. See where we're at. Okay. This contour line here, I'm not a fan of, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of it. Not on both sides, so it messes with my symmetry, and I don't like it. Better remember with the patch tool, it's better if you can stay in a similar area. Once you get to working with it, you'll see. It tells you when it's not happy. One final look. Still face adjustment. Okay. So I'm gonna go back over to the spot healing brush. Roll on down. See if we got any blemishes on the arms. I'm not a fan of these veins, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of them. For that, it is still best to use a patch tool. Try to stay with the color of the skin. Okay? If you go from a darker area to a lighter area, sometimes it's pretty noticeable, so try to stay with it. Okay. Same thing over here. Not a big fan of that. Even though it's a very natural feature, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of it. Fade here. And a lot of this stuff will also even out when we deal with frequency separation a little bit later here. We can even things out. Alright. So, let's talk about this darker area here. The panty line. You have that effect happening. Sometimes it's best to wait until a later step, but just work with it a little bit. See what you can pull off. Okay? So you got rid of that darker area there. And when we do frequency separation, we'll also smoothen some of these tones. Okay? Now, my main concern here, this young lady's gorgeous. She doesn't have a ton of scrapes and bruises. The few stretch marks that she does have, they're not a big deal. The lighter ones with these lines here, they're pretty natural. There's the way that they're in her skin, you're going to have an extremely difficult time trying to get rid of them. So I want to focus on the darker ones, the ones that are noticeable. When we start blending skin tones later in frequency separation, a lot of that light stuff is going to fade away or become so light it's non-noticeable. Okay? So I just want to focus on these here. Get rid of them. Okay. Now you do have a couple here that are more noticeable because they're on the outside. Just same thing. I do my skin retouching same way I put on my pen, one leg at a time. So let's back out here, see what else we got going on. I try to get rid of anything that's noticeable. So I want things to go real smooth when I start blending these colors together. Okay, and right now you're affecting both the texture and the tone and color of the leg at the same time. When you start frequency separation, it puts your textures and your colors on two different layers. So you're only affecting one. So for me, some of this stuff that is just all about the skin texture, it's real easy to just knock out while you're editing both, and then when you go to blend the colors together, you really see a big difference. And when you're dealing with lines, you want to try to keep the line straight. There's a line here on the front of her leg. So when I move in the same way that line moves, staying along it. That way things look even and natural. Okay? I personally am not a fan of this little pocket here, so I'm going to remove it. Just play with it a little bit till you get the results you want. These are tricky. These are not the sexiest part of the body on anyone. So as a retoucher or photographer, you just do what you gotta do. You guys know me, I'm not a fan of veins. So let's get rid of these few. Full blemish there. Once again, it's all up to you guys how detailed you want to get. So one leg's done. Let's move on to the other. Alright, once again, we talked about this area for the razor bumps. It's very simple. You just gotta play with it until you get where you're going. Get rid of as much as you can. It's best to do it in small areas. And for this tool, if you're on a line, you want to try to stay on that line. So when you see me get close to that line there, I try to stay on that line. Simply because if you don't, you'll get a color disfiguration. Like that. You see it made a little line there. So I try to stay right about in the same area. Alright, let's take a look. Big difference. Okay? Spending so much time here because this is a common area that needs work. Even when you're editing men, you'll find that right around the neck area, you'll run into a bunch of razor bumps. Razor bumps pretty much look the same everywhere. Okay? Much smoother, and then we'll even those skin tones a bit later. Okay, got a few more of those darker stretch marks here. Gonna adjust. Because if you can't see the whole thing, I'm gonna leave it. I'm not gonna bother it. Looks like it might be a cupcake. Either way, pretty clean. It doesn't look bad. I'll leave it. Just removing all these little blemishes. Okay. Now, in this leg, you got some discoloration, a waviness. Okay. Just try to get rid of it the best you can. A lot of it will smoothen out when we go into the other steps. But a good way to do it is to use the patch tool. Stay on that same line. Every photographer and retoucher is going to edit a different way. They're going to use different tools. They're going to care more about certain things than the other. We all have our own styles. Definitely want to keep that line the same. Right now I'm helping with some of the areas that look like they repeated from the patch tool. Okay, let's see where we're at. Smoothing it out. Okay, hold on a little further. Alright. Oh. So we got a couple more things down here on the foot. Get rid of the hair on the toes. You got more pressure on this foot, so we got a couple dark spots here. This where our toes are bending. Still look natural, still keeping the texture. Just getting rid of the darker area right here. There we go. Alright. Blemishes are gone. Okay. Now we're going to move into our Liquify, so we can adjust those areas that we spoke about. Sometimes when you bring this back up, it helps. So we're going to move into bringing in her waist, okay, and adjusting any waviness in her leg. To get started with the Liquify tool, filter, Liquify. Other window opens. Let's talk about these tools a little bit. This one allows you to move things as you would with a finger, just like with that show, okay? This tool here is called a pucker tool. Sucks things in. See that? This one here is called an expansion tool. Pushes things out. Okay? Those are the three primary tools you're going to use when dealing with Liquify for a subject like this. Okay? So remember when I talked about bringing those hips in? All you got to do is just pucker a little bit. Hips brought in. Okay? Now let's talk about the waviness. There's a little bit of wave here. Sometimes the best thing to do is exaggerate a little bit. She has a great figure, but you want to make sure the viewer can tell. Okay? Get rid of some of the waviness. Sometimes it's about the size of the brush. Okay, so just lift our butt a little bit. Okay. Just got to be subtle. It's very hard to get perfect at these, but after you've been doing it for a while, you get an idea how far away you need to be for it to look perfect. We got a little bit here. Okay. Go ahead, back out. See what you've done. I'm going to come in just a little bit here. And you can adjust the shadows that are here. Too much. Okay. Sometimes the way things look are all about the shadows. And if you don't like it, you can always go back. And then you can readjust that when you do your dodge and burn. I'm gonna leave it. Alright. Sometimes it's best to make the hair look fuller. Very easy to do. Take a bigger brush. Go out just a little. Big hair is in, right? But not too much. Then, very subtly, there's an area in the hair. It's pretty much blocked by our ears there, but just a little. You can even make the ears a little more profound if you want. Alright, going to return the result, see what we have. Check your before and after very easily. Boom. From beautiful to beyond beauty. Alright, hair's a little bigger, snatched her waist. And that's what the liquifying does. After you liquify, what you're going to want to do is go into frequency separation. Frequency separation is After you finish the liquify, what you're going to want to do is go into frequency separation. Frequency separation is a method of editing that allows you to take the textures of a layer and put it on to a separate layer than the colors of the layer. After you finish liquifying, you're going to want to go into frequency separation. Frequency separation is a method of editing that takes the textures of an image and puts it on a separate layer than the colors of an image, and allows you to edit them separately. Okay? First step, you're going to want to duplicate the layer twice. Bang, bang. First step, you're going to want to duplicate. First step, you're going to want to duplicate the layer twice. Bang, bang. You're going to want to rename these two layers. And while we're at it, we can rename this one to your primary. You did all that other work on it. I want to make sure you know where it is. Okay? So, first thing you want to do is turn off the high frequency layer. You're going to want to do what's called a Gaussian blur to this layer. Now, this blur is completely up to you guys. Okay? Some people take it as far as they want, others keep it really light. I'm typically between a 7 and a 12. I focus more on the eyes. Okay? I want to be able to see the iris through the blur. Once that iris is gone, I've gone way too far. So I'm going to be right there at about an 8.4. Now what you're going to do to bring that detail back is apply an image. Open apply image. You want to make sure that the layer you're selecting is the low frequency image that you already have been working on. Okay. You want to go to subtract in your blending option. You want to make it sure you're at a scale of 2 and an offset of 128. Once you go ahead and click OK, remember you turned this off, so turn it back on. You're going to get what's like an outline. Okay. What you want to do to get that right is go to linear light in your blending modes, and it makes it look perfect. Now go ahead and add both of these layers into its own group. Rename it whatever you want. I'm going to go with FS for frequency separation. And then I always click on and off just to make sure that the layer is perfect. I didn't move anything. Okay. What you're going to use frequency separation for is if you see any other blemishes, you can remove them. But most importantly, you're going to blend in the skin tones. Okay. So let's start with this young lady's face. You can see a little discoloration. Okay. It's very subtle, but it's there. Once you do it, you'll definitely be able to see it. So I use the lasso tool. You want to keep your feathering because you do want feathering. If you don't use feathering, you'll get an exact outline. Let's see if we can show you an example. Okay, so let's do that. No feathering at all. And then we're going to go ahead and blur that area. And you can kind of see an outline there. Okay, it's very subtle, but you see it. It's there. There's a cutoff right here. So let's go back. Let's make sure we feather that brush. Make sure we feather that selection. I'm going to stay at about a 15. Make sure you're on a low frequency layer. Go around towards the hairline. Don't go over anything that's too different in color. And then what you're basically doing is blurring this image. Okay, you're doing a Gaussian blur. Because you already blurred it when you set up the frequency separation, it's already set up at an 8.4. Okay? Anytime you do a filter like that, it shows up at the top as the last thing you did. And you just hit Control F to redo it. Okay? Sometimes when you're doing this, you want to do it more than once. Hit Control F a couple times. Blends it perfectly. Okay? See those little areas just disappear. Okay? Same thing with the other areas of the face. Go around towards the end. Under, over. Alright? Cleanse it all. This area under our eyes, we're going to remedy this later, but for now we can make the blending just a bit more subtle. Same thing, select an area, Control F it. Okay, also in here. And it doesn't seem like you're making that big of a difference until you go ahead and turn those on and off. Okay? You're going to do that same thing with all the other areas of the body. Okay? So you don't have to do areas that are covered by this shirt that she has on. But like the arm here, don't go too far to the edge. If you go too close to the edge, the color from your white background will begin to blend into your area. Okay? So you want to get close, but not too close. Same thing. Okay? You can see some of that I was talking about right in there. So because that happened, I'm going to back out. Okay, going to make another selection. A little further in. Okay. And when we go down to the legs, you'll see exactly what I was saying about how some of the other blemishes here you'll get rid of. The leg, you can do it in sections. Blended it all together, and what you're seeing there is still texture. Okay, it's all normal. I try to make my images look as natural as I can keep them. Do that one leg at a time. Same thing here. And everything you can. Even the knees. We talked about our knees can need a little work. Same thing. You blend them together, they look a little more subtle. They don't go anywhere. Still looks natural. Alright, so there's a mark down here on her foot. I want to get rid of that. Switch over to the high frequency layer. Grab the patch tool. Only messes with the texture because we're using frequency separation. Okay? Way more subtle than it was. There we go. That's what frequency separation can do for you. Alright, once you're done with your frequency separation, you're going to move into your dodge and burn. Please try to remember though, there's no set order in which you need to do these things. Sometimes the first thing I do is liquify. Sometimes the first thing I do is begin some dodging and burning. You want to get a workflow together that works for you. Okay? At this point, I kind of do the same thing every time. The only thing that really switches for me on a regular basis is when I liquify. Sometimes I liquify before I remove blemishes. Sometimes I liquify after. But usually it's a pretty straightforward workflow for me. Now what you want to do is start your dodge and burn. I use the curves method, which I learned from a really good photographer friend of mine. I was using the dodge and burn tool over here when I first began. He basically laughed at me. He showed me something that's a lot less destructive and works a whole lot better. So what you're doing is a curves adjustment layer. Okay, so you're going to get it kind of bright, not too bright, and you're going to invert that layer. That'll allow you to do is paint with a white brush on the areas you want highlighted. Okay, you're going to rename that to dodge. Okay, or D. Sometimes I use D and B instead of dodge and burn. Same difference. For your burn layer, you're going to want to come down. Don't go too far, okay? That's not going to help you. You want to come down until you get a nice little, you want the edges, okay? Right about there. Okay, you inverted that. Go ahead, change the name of that. Okay, now sometimes I keep this inside my frequency separation layer just because it makes it easier to turn the whole thing on and off. But realistically speaking, you want it separate. So what you do is take it, put it in another group. Okay. Expand that. Alright. Let's start with the eyes. She has really gorgeous eyes. You just want to enhance those a little bit. If you can see, they're brown, but she also has a little bit of a highlight in there already. Okay? So what I do, and you'll find so many different methods on how to increase the eyes. Okay? My flow is always going to be between 40 and 50. Okay? I'm usually closer to 40 than 50, but it's always right there in the middle. Okay? The first thing I do is brighten the entire iris. Okay? 1 or 2 passes will get you bright enough. What matters is that percentage that you have it on. Okay? Right now I'm at 21. It's not very harsh, especially for the eyes, because you want them bright and you want them to pop. Okay? Then I'm going to take a smaller brush and I just want to highlight those areas of outline that I saw earlier. Okay? Then you back out. See the difference you've made to the eye. As far as the rest of the face, you kind of want to follow what's already there. Get a little bit more subtle with that. You want to follow what's already there. So I try to connect there a little bit, and then I go down. Bump that one a little bit. But then I follow the structure of the face. So I put a V here, go across the eyes here, and put kind of like A lines there. Alright? That's just my method. Some people get very specific with it. I've never really had a lot of luck trying to get specific with certain areas. I just like to brighten the center of that face. Then you go for the burn. Make your brush a little smaller, but you want to go around the edges of the face, so you're getting the light fall off. Okay? So around what you already did. And if you take a step back, turn that D and B off, you'll see the big difference that you've made. Okay? You also want to make sure you go ahead, highlight these a little more. Okay? Also, any glare in the lip. Alright, while you're still up here, you want to do the hair. With the hair, you can be a little bit more aggressive for those highlights. So we're going to take it up to about a 25, 26. And it's very simple. Now please understand that depending on how the hairdo is, you may have to use different methods. But I just take the highlights that are already there and I enhance it. Okay? Sometimes it's not that noticeable. If you feel like you're not doing much, just turn it on and off. You can see where it is. Okay? I'm just enhancing the highlights that are already there. I really want those cat ears to pop. Back up. Take a look at your work. Okay? Same goes for the rest of the body. You want to highlight where your flash is already hit. Now you can take this down quite a bit. 17 looks like it'll work good. One bigger, then I go smaller. Okay? Put that highlight in there. The highlight here is a little more subtle, so you gotta be more subtle. Okay? This area here, I'm gonna go ahead and darken it a little bit. Okay? Go ahead and take the whole inside of there. Real subtle like. Okay? Same thing when you're down here on her leg. So small. And you can see what your highlights have done. Completely different. Okay. Also with your burn, you want to go hit the outlines. Okay. When I say outlines, I mean where the light falls off. Take a smaller brush. Go hit those areas. Just makes it a bit more dynamic. Okay. You want to try your best to be inside of the leg. All of it, on and on. Beautiful. Now that the dodge and burning is done, you want to go ahead and move on to those eyes. Remember I told you I try to do them last. And when I say the eyes, what I mean is this little area up under here. Okay? As you can see, some of our eye makeup has rubbed a little bit. And it's a little darker there. Those kind of things. They're easily adjusted. At this time, everything I've done down here has gotten a picture to where I want it. So what I want to do now is take a snapshot of all of that work together and go from beginning to end. So what I'm going to do is hit Control, Alt, Shift, E. Okay? What that does is give me a stamped visible layer. So everything that's visible, it put it all on one layer for me. So now when I turn all of these off, okay? In fact, if you hold Alt and click your layer, everything else turns off. Turn your background layer back on. You can actually back out and go from start to finish with one click now. Okay? Get back to those eyes. Now, the stamp visible layer is there because I want to adjust it. Okay? So I'm going to turn this back on. All of this down here. I'm going to go ahead and add a filter to that. Okay? Alright, the stamp visible layer is there. I'm going to turn all that back on. Then what you're going to do is fix the eyes to the extreme basically. So I'm going to remove all the lines from up under her eye. And because she has on this great popping makeup, it'll give it a nice little blend effect for the color. Okay? See that? Got rid of all the lines. Gave me a nice little blending effect. Same thing there. So you back out, that's what it looks like. Okay? Here over here on the left, I went too high up. So I'm going to do that one over. Made it look a bit flat. Just get the lines. Okay? If there's anything that comes from you blending that, you just want to go ahead and remove it quickly. Okay? Now, that is great. It's beautiful. But it's not natural to have not a single line under your eye there. So you just want to make them a little more subtle. So what you're going to do is go ahead and add a mask to it. Then you're going to invert it. Okay? And you're just going to paint over it. Give it about 75% on both of those. So now that we've made that adjustment, we've increased the brush opacity quite severely. And we're just going to go ahead, go over. Still too much, just go back, bring it down 50%. Keep the flow at 75. There you go. See? Make the lines there. Keep them subtle. And now you can even adjust this way. Okay? I like it right about there. Okay? Maybe a little less. Right about there. It looks gorgeous. Alright. Now we're going to work on the floor. Same thing, you're going to take another stamp visible layer. You can go ahead and name this one Eyes first. Okay? Once again, Control Alt Shift E. Get your new stamp visible layer. Okay? What you're going to do is go to Filter, Noise, Median. And this radius here will let you know how much of a blur we're using. Okay? You don't need it too far. The good thing about this is it still keeps the outlining shape of everything. Okay? You want that outlining shape. Okay? But you also want this stuff on the floor to fade out. So you gotta find a happy medium. Layer mask. Invert. Go to your brush. You're going to want to be at 100% for these. Alright. You're going to want to take a smaller brush and go around close to her. Okay? Still using a softer brush. But to get close to her, because if you go like that, you bring the blur into her. So you just get a little close. Okay? This is just giving you a bit of a buffer so that when you go through with the larger brush, you don't have to get that close. You need that buffer zone. Okay? Then you can back out. Stay outside your buffer zone. Get all that other stuff. Go right up to your buffer zone. Big reason for that buffer zone is anytime you use a feather brush, it's actually pushing a little bit outside of the circumference of the circle. So, and then you just on and off, just like that. Looks like that. Okay? Now, To see start from finish, you want to make a final clone visible layer. Control, Shift, Alt, E. Okay? You want to hold Alt, click the eye of that layer, turns everything else off. Turn on your background layer. And then you go from start to finish. And there you have it, folks. A full retouch. From beautiful to beyond beauty.